Hello, 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 and welcome to the College of Creation. My name is Dan.
And my name is Michael.
And we are Dungeons & Dragons DMs who love to homebrew items, spells, creatures, and features for D&D, and this is a show where we make brand new homebrew for your D&D games and our D&D games every single week based on prompts that we get from our audience. This week, we were given the task to make a feature or ability or something like that that players could share and use together in the game. There is a tricky thing that happens with D&D where it is a team game, right? You are playing with a group and you do have to balance each other's strengths to make it work. At the same time, you are limited to your own skill set. You're limited to the things that are on your character sheet, and those are the things that you can do. And there's not a lot of crossover stuff like that, you know?
Yeah, it's almost strange how absent it is. D&D is mid-crunch, right? The players that may prefer more intense, crunchier games like Pathfinder can still play D&D because it's applicable, but new players can also access D&D. I think that a more streamlined class system like D&D has is conducive to a wide variety of playstyles. When you add a lot of crossover event type of features or abilities, it really complicates the game very quickly. You have to map it out. If you are writing out mechanics, you have to map all that stuff out. From a development standpoint,
right?
You made the very good point last week that you should not, or you don't have to, at the very least, map those things out. If you're trying to go for a combo move type of thing, no need to do that. You can kind of just figure out what happens in the moment. But from a planned, mechanical, developmental point of view, that all has to be laid out in a concrete fashion. Otherwise, there's too much room for question. There's too much gray area, and that's just so complex to add into a game like D&D that's already so vast.
That's, I think, the thing is that a certain amount of vagueness, a certain amount of being able to utilize that gray area can really work in games that are much more rules light. I think with D&D, you kind of, it's robust enough in its rules that putting things in there that are gray, that are a little bit unclear, and things that don't have always a constant ends up complicating and muddying the system. But I do think, as you say, there's always going to be more things that a DM can do from the DM side to improvise and to facilitate those moments that players don't have access to. So I was saying with regard to, if you wanted to have a monster that has a vulnerability to combination type damage, I as a DM can make that monster happen incredibly easily. All I have to do is tack on a feature onto an existing monster stat block that says if this creature takes cold damage and then immediately takes fire damage, that does bonus damage, or it creates vulnerability, or it adds a condition to that creature, whatever it is. I can do that on the fly easy. A player can't necessarily do that without going to the DM in that moment and say, hello, I would like to do some shenanigans. How would you feel about this? How would you react if I chose to do this thing? And then it's really it's in the hands of the DM. It's in the hands of the person running the table, whether that's legit or not.
Yeah, I think that most of the time when players are given positions of power, it is a good thing because the DM is all powerful, right? If you have the wrong DM and they are kind of more of an arbitrator of their own rule set than a player in the game, it can get very messy very quickly. So giving any type of power balance to the player is a nice gesture. And so the things that I made this week just tried to create a framework that allows for the possibility of working together more without the necessity of checking in with the DM first, which doesn't happen often enough, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would generally agree with that, and I agree with what you're saying. That from the thing you brought, the record player that put specifically that agency in the player's hand to determine what the tone of the music that comes out is, and thereby
tell me what's about to happen. Yeah,
right, and thereby kind of infuse or inspire what is about to happen next. At least in tone, you're giving that agency to the player to say, like, I want you to guide this moment. And I think there are tons of ways that DMs can and should do that more often, right? Like, one of my favorite tricks to do at a table, and this is if you're a DM at home, take notes. One of my favorite tricks is when I'm describing a place, when I'm describing some new environment that the players walk into or something like that. Or if I am digging into maybe a backstory moment and I want to harken back to a moment before the campaign started, I will fully put the narrative control into a player's hand and say, you notice something that catches your eye specifically for reasons related to your background. You're an artisan maybe, or whatever it is. Like, you notice something, you tell me what it is. Or you're looking at these, strange animals that exist in this jungle landscape that you've never been to before and that is uncharted and wildly unexplored. Describe to me a creature that you catch sight of. I think that's always a good time. And the players are going to always surprise you with what comes up in their brains. And it gives them that feeling of ownership over the narrative and over what's about to happen. Because hopefully, when they give you that hint, that monster description or that item description or a person perhaps that they see, that hopefully will cause you to react to that and push towards that thing.
Correct.
And try and latch onto it and bring a story beat out of it. So you're sharing that narrative responsibility a lot more closely. So I love that, but I also love things that you can give players that mechanically allow them to do that as well.
I think a good balance of both is, I can't say necessary for every game, because I know that there are plenty of tables that are purely mechanical and they just go in and smash and have a great time. But a good combination of both of those things can be such a benefit to the vast majority of tables. Tables that operate without them can be wildly successful. Once these things are introduced to those tables, it's more difficult to take them back, because they are such good inspiration for both players and DMs that I think they are almost universally a benefit to anybody that plays a TTRPG.
So many things now that have become, at this point, they're almost impossible to take away from most tables, even though they are optional things or they're commonly used homebrew. But once you establish that, it is really hard to take that away. I mean, look at flanking, right? Like, I have never been at a table, I don't think, where
that doesn't use it.
Somebody didn't at least ask, like,
we
like,
doing flanking?
Can we do flanking?
Yeah.
Right? So, like, it might as well be in the game for most tables, I think. And I think you're right. Like, if you try and take that away from a table who is used to having that benefit in combat, I think you're going to have a hard time. Similarly, I think things like if you run critical hits a different way, like I do, I think my players really enjoy that. And I think that you have a hard time taking that away from them when you start something new or you try to backpedal in a thing. So, yeah, I guess your mileage may vary. I guess, be cautious about that. But I do think more options is generally better.
I think so. I'm a big fan of options. I'm a big fan of player flexibility. I think that for newer players specifically, I have found that I've had to guide them through those things more, because it can become a bit confusing the more layers you add into your game. But on the whole, options are good.
Yeah.
Options are good.
Yeah. Well, speaking of options, Michael, should we just get into it?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so here's what I have this week. So this week, like I said, I spent a good amount of time sort of thinking about how I can kind of spread some agency across to other parts of the table. But then I also thought about what else can I do that's just fun. So I will start with the things at the top that I made. 2 items that can be used in tandem, can be used by multiple creatures simultaneously. But then I also made something that's more mechanical, that's more a framework for changing the way we think about a certain type of action and specifically teamwork within a certain piece of the game. So if you would open up your document I just called, all of these things are related to teamwork. So we will start with the items here. We have, first of all, right off the bat, the Vierhänder, which is a greatsword.
Love that.
Inspired by the Zweihänder, which is two-handed in German. So if you take that to its fullest extent, it's the Vierhänder, which is a greatsword, and it deals 2d12 damage. It weighs 20 pounds, and it is heavy, has the four-handed property, reach, and the cleave weapon mastery.
This is so fun.
This weapon requires 2 creatures to lift and use. The creatures must be adjacent to each other at all times while wielding the sword. A creature wielding the sword alone moves at half speed. Only 1 attack can be made with the Vierhänder each turn, regardless of the number of attacks a creature can normally make on its turn. And then it just has the cleave weapon mastery property as it is. This is a deeply impractical weapon that I just decided was funny to me. I thought it was great.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. I want to run a one-shot where maybe it's a smaller table, like 3 to 4 players. Mm-hmm. And they all are like overpowered. You tell them going in,
yeah,
like maximize your stats. Just like go game to the best of your ability, because all of you are going to get these items of detriment.
Yes.
All of the stuff that you're using, they're going to be four-handed weapons. That you, there are 4 of you, essentially only 2 of you, because you're going to have to work together the whole time.
You gotta stay right next to each other and hold this sword that's just swaying back and forth as you move. It's great.
Every trap, and then every puzzle,
it
requires 2 people at a time. Yeah,
a nightmare.
Horrible game. Yeah,
so good. Then we have the trench coat of disguise. Obviously, this is something that must be in the game. It has to be. This is a wondrous item. It's uncommon. Up to 2 medium creatures or 3 small creatures can fit into this trench coat, stacked on top of each other's shoulders. While at least 2 creatures are wearing the trench coat, the creature at the top of the stack can use a magic action to cast Disguise Self on the stack, causing it to appear as a single creature. To see through disguise, a creature must take the study action and succeed on a DC 13 Intelligence investigation check. And a creature that succeeds on this check is permanently immune to the effects of this trench coat.
Ooh, interesting.
So once you see that somebody is just 3 kobolds in a trench coat, they will never be able to fool you again. So then we get into the serious stuff here on page 2. This is an optional rule. So Dungeons & Dragons is a group game played individually. Mm-hmm. That is to say that the player characters are working as a party, but are limited to their own skills and abilities as detailed on their own character sheet. They can strategize together and plan courses of action, but each player takes their turn separately. These mechanics can work together to make combat and action time feel more collaborative and dynamic. You can implement all of them or only some, but hopefully they provide your table the opportunity to play more as a group than as individual adventurers. So, this is shared initiative. When you roll initiative, if 2 or more allied creatures share the same initiative count, they can both take their movement and actions in any order they choose, as if acting within the same turn. The start of turn and end of turn happen concurrently for both creatures. So anything that triggers at the start of turn triggers for both of them at the same time, and anything that happens at the end of one of their turns happens at the same time for both of them.
Wonderful. Love that.
And then I have 3 sort of additional options that you could tack onto this because that already is going to hopefully provide your players the opportunity to, within the same turn, strategize. You say, you move over here, I am going to shoot, and then I'm going to come and join you, and then you're going to grab me up, and we're going to teleport with a dimension door over here. But like usually you would have to like figure out how to hold actions, but you can only hold one action, but you want to wait for this to happen, So with this, you just kind of do it. The option 1 is initiative blocks. Instead of requiring allied creatures to share the same initiative count, you can expand shared initiative to include any group of initiative rolls made by allied creatures that are uninterrupted by an enemy initiative count, layer action, or NPC initiative count. So if you've got your party here at like, they rolled a 13, a 10, and an 8, but there's no creatures in between them. Nobody rolled a 9, nobody rolled an 11 in there. They can all use basically their turns simultaneously. You just have that block as a turn. This is somewhat similar to side initiative, which some people do use at their tables, which is to say all of the enemies go and then all of the players go in whatever order they choose. That's also totally valid, and I encourage you to try that out as well if these are too complicated for you. If you feel like you need a little more crunch, go ahead and give this a shot. It does require more kind of like blocking out of who goes together.
Yeah. A little bit more above table talk for sure.
Yeah, like when you roll initiative, you kind of would, instead of putting them in initiative numbers, just like separate them into chunks,
them into blocks,
and then roll and then actually run through initiative. So it would require some setup time at the top of initiative. Option 2 here is really where the meat and potatoes of this are. These are called shared maneuvers. So you also grant allied creatures with shared initiative access to a special set of features that can only be taken on the shared initiative turn. Each maneuver has a recharge score listed in the description and requires specific actions to be taken during the shared initiative turn. So the idea being, if you and another creature have a shared initiative or a shared initiative block, if you're using that, you can use some of these special actions by using your actions on your turn. So the first one here, for example, is called Arcane Blade. It's a recharge of 4 through 6, so at the start of that turn, you roll a d6. On a 4, 5, or 6, this recharges. The actions required, one of the characters has to take a magic action to cast a level 1 spell or higher that requires an attack roll. So it's one magic action, parentheses, level 1 spell or higher with an attack roll. The other person makes a melee weapon attack. So those are the two actions that are required to happen on the turn. The effect is this. Both creatures make an attack roll against the same creature at the same time, and both use the highest result on all rolls. So if somebody rolls a 19 and the other person rolls a 5, you both get to have that 19. On a hit, the damage from the spell and weapon attacks ignores resistance that the target has to that damage. So you're just infusing a little magical energy into both attacks, and you're beefing up so that you're working together. You're targeting like a vulnerability there together. So it's kind of like advantage and kind of like overcoming resistance. It's not overly powerful, but it does mean that you are working together in a more active way.
Right.
These include a number of other things, like Dual Strike, which requires 2 attacks of some kind, and you can deal critical hits more easily. And if one attack is a crit, both are crits. You can take 2 bonus actions and just expend them, taking no other bonus action, to Empower, giving yourselves a bonus to spell save DC until the end of the next turn, equal to the number of creatures who share this maneuver. So if there are 3 people in the initiative block and they all just waste their bonus action Empowering, they all get a +3 bonus to spell save DC. So there's just like
nice
banding together, doing their thing. There's Exploit Weakness, where you can choose to reduce the damage to give someone a penalty to a saving throw against a spell that is cast in the same action. Flurry Rush, you can make bonus attacks that you normally wouldn't be able to make. Spell Surge, you can upcast spells basically to 1 level higher for free by working together.
Yep.
So all of these things, they have a recharge score generally around, it's either 6 or between like 5 and 6. And you can expand on this list very easily. Just add things, add the required actions that players have to take within the shared initiative, and give it a little bit of a boost. I don't think it should be anything super duper powerful.
Yeah.
This is boosting both of your stuff kind of at the same time. This is like allowing you to help each other out in unique ways that maybe your character sheet features don't really allow you to help each other as actively, especially if you're playing not really much of a support class.
Right.
Especially if you're playing, a fighter, just like a champion fighter. Like, you don't have access to a ton of support maneuvers with that. So you're kind of limited to like, well, I can give you the help action by wasting my entire action, but that doesn't really seem useful. So it would be cool to have something else to do that feels helpful and feels like we're working together. So this is my attempt at that. And then we have option 3. This is the final piece of the puzzle. And this is one that I would say is maybe a little... This is extra crunch. This is like only if you want the crunchiest of crunch. And the most sort of complex, like focus hard, everybody is paying attention and everybody has got their stuff together at the table. This is shared resources. You can also allow allied creatures within shared initiative to distribute actions and movement among themselves, provided that no more than one action and one bonus action is taken per creature in the shared initiative group, and that the total movement expended does not exceed the combined total of all creatures' movement speed. I wouldn't actually recommend this. I put it in there because it was like, that would be wild, huh?
This is going into that one shot where it's all players that are maxed out with bad items. This is the stuff that I'm going to put in there to make it only chaos.
It's full chaos is the thing. You're just like, okay, if you take 4 attacks and none of the rest of us take actions, then maybe we'll be okay. But like, that is it makes no sense most of the time.
I suppose this is like a last minute 11th hour Hail Mary type of thing that you have the rule in place and you just all agree as a table we're not using this unless there's no other option. Then we're all out of spell slots. The only thing that makes sense is to pump all of our actions into the barbarian. They're going to charge in and use 6 attacks. And that's the last thing we're going to try.
Full last stand energy.
Yes,
exactly. So I do think that initiative, shared initiative can be really fun. You can expand it into initiative blocks, but honestly, it could just be a fun thing that you reward players who roll out the same initiative. That happens all the time at tables. It's like, oh, you rolled a 13, I rolled a 13. Great, we go at the same time. And then you're like, well, you guys can choose who goes first. But maybe you can do something slightly more interesting with that. You can say, take your actions in whatever order you wish. And also, here's some shared maneuvers that you might take. So, yeah. I like it. I think, I had a good time coming up with maneuvers, but I always have a good time coming up with any list of things. So, yeah. That's me.
I'm wondering if we switched brains this week, because yours are very flavorful and funny, and I shot very straight this week.
Hey, sometimes we switch brains for a week. That's okay.
Yeah, I think that these are fantastic. I love the 4-handed greatsword.
Yeah, it's a fun one.
I think it's the funniest visual, especially because you have to have at least 2 creatures inside of the trench coat of disguise. You can use both of these items at the same time and meet the brief. And that's the funniest thing. 2 or 3 kobolds, and they've burned all their goodwill with disguise self. Nobody believes them anymore, and it's very obvious that it's 3 kobolds running around carrying this massive greatsword. That's hilarious. And then shared initiative is just so good. It adds a different option, if nothing else, just something to try during a short game.
Yeah.
At your table. I think one-shots are high time to add different options, different table rules in for your party, and there's no real detriment to your game. Long-standing games, keep those rules. Like, have full table votes on when you change things. Make sure that everybody's in agreement. But for short games, one-offs, that's when you can experiment and have fun. And if something doesn't work, no harm, no foul. Just take it out and revert back to what you do normally. Shared initiative is one of those things that is a perfect implementation into a short game to see if you like it, because this is really laid out very well.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
How about you? What did you come with today? You said you played it straight.
I did. I came today with 4 feats, where you played to the idea of different characters taking different abilities and making them work together. I played into the idea of different characters taking the same abilities and making those abilities work together. So I made 4 feats. I call these tandem feats. I kind of made a new style of feat for this.
Cool.
Essentially, these are general feats. Their prerequisite level is still level 4. So you can't take them right at the base level at level 1. But they operate basically the same as a general feat if you and only you have them. They have abilities that are associated with them that you can use if you alone have this feat, but they also have a tandem ability at the bottom of each of them that if another character has this same feat, you both can do something extra.
I like this.
Thank you.
I mean, I'm just going to say right out of the gate, I haven't read any of these specific feats that you've made. You made some custom feats, but I also think this is a very cool thing to add to existing feats.
Yep.
As a framework. Just like thinking about it, I think that would be really cool for a couple specific ones in particular.
So yes, these are my tandem feats. Start up here at the top. I call this feat Climber. The athlete feat has a section of this that's the same, but I kind of took the baseline athletics thought out of it. And this is specifically about climbing. So this is called Climber, a prerequisite level of 4 or higher, strength or dexterity of 13 plus. You gain the following benefits. Your ability score increase is either strength or dexterity. All feats in 2024 rules give you at least 1 ability score increase. Your climbing speed, you gain that equal to your speed and can't be knocked off of a vertical surface against your will. So at this point, you just latch in, right? You can put, I don't know climbing terminology, but you can put one of those hooks in that makes you just sticks you into the wall. You also gain the vertical guard feature. If you're climbing within 5 feet of another creature and they would otherwise be knocked away from the wall, you can use a reaction to keep them from falling. So you not only are immune to that yourself, but you can help other people. Maybe people that don't have a climbing speed and they're not as adept at vertical climbing, you can make sure that they are safer as well. Now, if 2 creatures within 15 feet of each other both have this feat, they each have a climbing speed equal to double the speed of the faster creature.
Ooh.
So if you're climbing together, you both can scale like crazy.
Yeah.
Right? So
That's
you're
fast.
watching each other's back. You are just like Spider-Man climbing. Only if 2 of you have this feat at the same time and you kind of stay in each other's stead. So you have to make sure that you're close. Just a big old boost to that climbing speed. Next, we have the Oblivious feat. This is a tandem feat, prerequisite level of 4 plus and wisdom 13 plus. The ability score increase is also wisdom as well. You gain the Aloof feature. You have advantage on all saving throws made to avoid the frightened or charmed conditions. And the tandem ability is called Tandem Focus. If 2 creatures within 15 feet of each other both have this feat, they can frighten and charm each other, but one is immune to the frightened condition and the other is immune to charmed. The condition immunities are chosen by the creatures and can be swapped at any time with no action required. So if you're standing next to each other, one of you can't be charmed and the other can't be frightened. You pick who it is. It can switch whenever you want. And if you want to, you can frighten or charm each other. So you can use that on my fighter that that
Yeah.
gets frightened to become stronger.
Yeah, exactly.
I
That is one of the few use cases where this is like, yeah, you would really want to be able to still be frightened
guess. Yeah,
and have somebody who can frighten you.
exactly. The next one up at the top here is called Toxin Sipper. This is a tandem feat, prerequisite level 4 plus, and a Constitution of 13 plus. Constitution is also the ability score increase. The feature here is called Toxic Pressure. Whenever you are poisoned, your melee and ranged weapon attacks deal an additional 1d6 poison damage. And for the tandem ability, if two creatures within 15 feet of each other both have this feat, they are both immune to poison damage and can poison each other as a bonus action.
So do you still suffer the negative effects of the poison, the disadvantage on ability checks and attack rolls?
Maybe I will add that in there then. Yeah. If you're within 15 feet of each other, you are immune to the... Well, can't be immune to the poison condition because that's what gives you the additional damage.
Yeah.
Immune to the negative effects of the poison condition. I'll have to think about how to word that.
Yeah, you don't suffer disadvantage on attack rolls or something like that. I don't know.
Maybe I'll take the immunity away. Maybe I'll just make it about the condition. Leave poison damage out of it. You don't suffer the adverse effects of poisoning. You can poison each other as a bonus action.
Something like that.
Anyway, number 4 out of 4, you have the photosynthetic feat. This is just a prerequisite of level 4 or higher. This increases your wisdom by 1 to a maximum of 20. You are immune to the effects of extreme heat, and if weather would give you a level of exhaustion, you can ignore it once per long rest.
Cool.
Also, when used in bright sunlight, your hit die size is 1 larger than normal.
Okay, cool.
That is something that I took from my photosynthetic sorcerer.
Yeah.
That was in there at first, and we took it out to make it a little bit cleaner. The tandem feature here is called Tandem Heat Transfer. If two creatures within 15 feet of each other both have this feat, their melee attacks deal an additional 1d6 radiant damage.
Cool.
Nice and simple.
Yeah, very simple.
Yeah.
I think there's something here that I think is a really cool idea and something that, like, I think there's definitely a strong possibility to capitalize on something here, because so many times I feel like the urge, and honestly the correct urge, is to diversify your skill sets and your feats and your abilities wildly, right?
Yeah.
Like, as a party, you want to, like, oh, well, we gotta have, we can't have multiple rogues or multiple rangers or whatever. Like, you know, you gotta have one of these and one of these and one of these, and you know, can't have too many crossover things.
Right.
If you're taking this feat, I shouldn't take that feat, and so there's a lot of that. But I feel like that's the kind of thing that this creates the opportunity to complicate that a little bit and, like, change that equation, because if you can provide something like a tandem effect to certain feats to encourage not just one person in the party to have it, but more people in the party to have it, up to like 2 or 3 people in the party to all try and get this feat, or maybe it's equipment, or maybe it's you know, some other thing that usually you would try to diversify, but in a certain case it's like, oh, it's actually useful for us to all have this climbing feat, because it would be incredibly useful for all of us to be able to stay close together and then scale this wall so fast. I mean, we like use a dash action one time and we'd like up
We're
a
at the
castle
top.
wall.
Yeah.
Like we've scaled an entire castle wall in probably about like 12 seconds. That would be super cool to have a couple people in your party be able to do that.
Be able to do it.
And I think, you've created a really interesting framework here to potentially find ways to enhance certain feats when used alongside another person who has the same feat.
Yeah, I was a bit inspired. I think the 2024 rules have... there was a tug a little bit in that direction with the change in the help action, right? You can't just help whoever. You have to be proficient in in a skill to help someone else perform an action with a skill. Right. So that does kind of inspire players to at least maybe one of their skills make that the same as somebody else in their party. You don't have to be completely circular throughout an entire party, but one or two folks in a party could share some skills, and that could prove to be pretty useful. Because I've worked with plenty of players that are just helpers. Yeah. Like we've all had players at our table that as somebody's trying to do something, they're like, I'll help. I'll help for advantage. Guidance. And they're always trying to hammer that. Yeah. I'll cast guidance. And I think that as good as the direction that skill change is, sometimes for those players specifically, it can kind of lock them into the mindset like, now I have to overthink about which skills other players are taking because I also want to take those skills.
Right.
And this can kind of be removed from that, so you can still do what you want, but have the idea of working together and having something that's kind of tangential to the help action.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a really good framework to, exactly like you say, give a reward for when those things do cross over, but still it feels, the feats themselves already, in general across the board, feats are not, I mean, pardon the pun, but there's no small feat. It's they're pretty significant features, and they can really help hone in a character concept. Mm-hmm. And so I don't think your first idea when picking a feat should be, well, what's the tandem effect if somebody else has it? But I think adding the idea of a tandem effect is a nice little sometimes reward for choosing something that's in line with your character in another way. I think that's good. It's great.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, I like it. Good stuff. Good stuff as always, Michael.
Indeed. From both of us.
It's one of those things that you always want to do is get the players to play together. And I love that.
It's hard to force mechanically. I think that both of us made good strides in that direction.
Yeah.
And that really is all that we can ask for. Nothing was a failure today.
No, so much of the magic is going to happen at the table with your players, though.
Yeah.
Finding fun ways to work together for sure. So hopefully this pushes that in the right direction, and you can just kind of watch it go. But let's roll for what we're going to make next time around, shall we?
I will pull up our giant table. This is a table that Dan and I have put together, chock full of prompts that we get from you, the listeners, our friends, sometimes each other, and we roll every week to see what we're going to make on the next episode. If you would like to give us a prompt, our email is collegeofcreationpod@gmail.com, or you can find us over at Patreon. You can head over to patreon.com/collegeofcreationpod. Send us a message there, or send us an email with a prompt if you want to get yours on the show. Dan, what are we making next week?
Let's check it out. Ooh, I rolled a 20.
A natural 20 is a very interesting prompt. It's going to be along the same lines as the Constitution abilities, the ability checks and things. This is a new D20 test that is not an attack, a skill check, or a saving throw. A new D20 test.
Interesting. A very complex mechanical challenge for us to take on.
That's how these prompts always are, though. It's such a simple prompt. It's the ones that have the least amount of text. That are the most complex. Yeah.
It's hard because it's just what else is there? D&D is a very comprehensive system, right?
It's got a lot of...
Jack and I talked about this. There is a lot more text than in some games because it needs to clarify a lot of the rules, and so a lot of stuff is covered within the system. And so what do you add that isn't there already, I wonder?
There are very few paths that have gone untread.
Yeah.
And I like those three tests pretty much cover the entire game.
Right.
So
well, it's sort of like active things that you do outside of combat, or like skills. Mm-hmm. Active things that you do in combat can include attack rolls, and then
anything
saving throws is anything you're reacting to. It's active versus reactive. So what's like not covered there is going to be interesting to find where that gap might exist.
They are all kind of along the same plane, though, right? They're all player focused as far as mechanics that are available on a character sheet. So maybe something that's not there, we'd have to think of some other layer of the game. And I guess tie it back to an action that the player could take. I don't know, man.
We'll see. Hey, it's a challenge. We like a challenge. We'll come up with something at the very least.
We will.
So,
we will.
Listener, we hope that you will join us for that. And until then, Michael, do you have something to say to the people before we say goodbye?
I do. I've been thinking a lot about the recording that you did with Jack. The thing that I'd like to say to the listener this week, if you did not check that out, you should go back and listen to episode 63. Dan and Jack Panic made system agnostic creations, and it was very interesting to listen to. Strange to listen to my own program from the outside. Very cool. But it was really cool to listen to how Jack's brain works as far as the gamification of creating things, like figuring out how many different game systems one creation can apply to without like oversaturating it with mechanics that are system specific. I encourage you, listener, to try this. Just make something without any mechanical ties to a system. It is incredibly freeing and so fun once you get over the stress of not having something that you think you need in there, because I assure you, at the very core, you don't need most of the stuff. If you can pare all of that away and get to just the nugget of the creation, it is so cool. And even if you're just sticking with D&D, it's good to do that sometimes, to strip away all the mechanics, strip away the correct verbiage, quote unquote correct verbiage, get all of that out of there and just try and find an idea that you like, and then try and build it back up. Maybe for D&D, maybe for something else, but stripping it down to its fundamental essence, I think is important and also fun if you like creating things like I do.
Yeah, definitely. I agree completely. We've talked so much on this show about like how important it is for D&D homebrew to like, you know, get the syntax right, especially if you're going to put something out, especially if you're going to publish something. Yep. But I do think stripping it down to just the concept is a really good way to reframe it or rethink an idea that might not be working, or just to be a starting point. Yeah. You know, don't start with trying to get all the syntax right. Start with what's the core idea? What do we want the thing to do? And that can be a really fun thing to like not feel tied to the mechanics of a game, and then add those mechanics in later when you have a little more,
fill everything else in afterwards. Exactly.
Very fun stuff. Well, thank you so much, Michael. Thanks for potting with me. And thank you all of you out there for listening. We will talk to you next time with our brand new D20 rolls. Until then, goodbye.